Hello, my name is Haley with Haley Stitches, and today I'm going to show you how to make a classic shoe fly quilt block. And you know I love pre-cut fabric, so today's block is made using 5-inch pre-cut squares. You can download the free quilt block pattern in the description of this video. Let's get started. The first step is to cut our background fabric, and before I cut my strips, I'm going to square up the edge of my fabric to make sure I have a nice 90-degree angle to work from. And for the background fabric, I'm going to cut 3 5-inch strips and 2 4.5-inch strips. You'll need a total of 3/4 yard of background fabric to make this quilt. The quilt I'm making in today's video is from my brand new quilt pattern called Simple Shoe Fly. The quilt pattern is made up of a traditional shoe fly block and comes in 4 sizes and several layout options. I'm doing layout 1C in this video. And while this is a paid pattern, I do have a free download that you can get of the shoe fly block itself using 5-inch squares. Now I'm going to subcut the 5-inch strips. So the first step always is to cut off your selvage. So I am using my ruler and rotary cutter just to trim off that textured bit on the edge of the fabric. And then I am going to go down my folded fabric here and cut 4 5-inch squares, and then I'm going to end up with a total of 8 5-inch squares because my fabric is folded in half. And I'm going to repeat that step for the second 5-inch strip that I cut. It is helpful to have smaller square rulers just to subcut these strips, but you can definitely do it with whatever ruler you have. The great thing about quilting is once you have one large ruler, I recommend a 6 by 24-inch ruler. You can really do any cut that you need to. For the last 5-inch strip, I'm going to cut 1 5-inch square from the folded fabric, resulting in 2 5-inch squares, and then a total of 3 4.5-inch squares. So I'm just cutting down that 5-inch strip into 4.5 inches to get the correct measurements. Next, I'm subcutting the 4.5-inch strips. I'm going to layer them both on top of each other just to make quick work of this, and I'm going to trim the entire strip down into 4.5-inch squares. And I'll end up with a total of 16 squares, and I'll have these little bits on the end left over, and I am going to unfold those and turn those into 4.5-inch squares as well to get a total of 18 4.5-inch squares from my 4.5-inch strips. So for background fabric, you'll end up with a total of 18 5-inch squares and 21 4.5-inch squares. Next, it's time to cut the charm pack. So charm packs typically come in packs of 42 5-inch squares, and I am going to separate these into 2 piles. We need 24 5-inch squares that are going to be subcut into 4.5-inch squares, and then the remainder will stay 5-inch. So I'm going to separate the duplicates to get 2 separate piles. One has the 24 squares I'm going to subcut, and then the other one will keep whole with 5-inch squares. So for this step, all we're going to do is use a 4.5-inch square ruler. Again, helpful if you have it, but definitely not necessary. And I'm going to line up that ruler with the corner of the 5-inch square and cut off that extra 1/2 inch on the top and the side that we don't need. And to make quicker work of this, I'm going to layer a bunch on top of each other and cut about 5 or 6 at a time. You can definitely go one by one if you feel more confident doing that, but it can take a little bit of time. So I do recommend trying to pile them on top of each other. And even if you only can do 2 or 3, it does make it faster than just doing one at a time. For pre-cuts, you'll notice the pinked edge all around. So if you don't want to work with that at all, you can put your ruler in the middle and trim around each side so you get straight edges on every side of your square. After all of that cutting, for the background, we'll have 18 5-inch and 21 4.5-inch squares. And for the charm pack fabric, we'll have 18 5-inch and 24 4.5-inch squares. And next, we're going to take our 5-inch squares, both the charm pack and the background, to make half square triangles. For this quilt, I'm using the 2 at a time half square triangle method. So you'll need 1 charm pack fabric and 1 background fabric. And on the background fabric, I'm going to draw a line from diagonal to diagonal of the square. If your background fabric is darker than your charm pack fabric, you can do it on whichever square is lighter. And I am using a friction pen. These pens disappear with heat, which is really nice, but I only ever use them in lines that I'm cutting because I've heard that they can reappear if your quilt gets cold. I've never had that happen, and I live in Minnesota, but I have heard it happen to other people, so better safe than sorry. Next, you're going to line up both squares right sides together, meaning the pretty sides together, and then you're going to sew a 1/4 inch away from the line on either side. And to turn these squares into 2 half square triangles, you'll just trim along that line you drew to get 2 identical pieces. And this is what your half square triangles will look like when you open them up. Next, it's time to press, and we are going to press towards the darker fabric. So in my case, it's always going to be towards the charm pack fabric because I'm using a white background. Now it's time to trim the half square triangle, and I'm using a 4.5 inch ruler. The most important thing is that diagonal line on the ruler matches the diagonal line on your half square triangle. So I'm going to trim the top and side, and then I'll rotate the entire block and then trim the top and side again to get our 4.5 inch size. There's a lot of tools you can use to trim half square triangles, like a block lock ruler and a rotating mat, but whatever ruler you have is going to work just fine as long as it has that diagonal line. And here's what the finished half square triangles look like. So each pair will result in 2 identical half square triangles. For this layout option in the pattern, I need a total of 36 half square triangles. And I sorted them out by color just so when I'm pairing up my shoe fly blocks, I can get a nice scrappy look and not have too many colors in one block. So now it is time to lay out our shoe fly block. This layout is super simple. All it takes is half square triangles on the corners, and then you'll make a cross out of your 4.5 inch squares in the middle. The first step when piecing the block is to piece each row together individually. After the rows are pieced, it is time to press. So for pressing instructions, for this block, you always want to press towards the white squares. So for the first block, you're pressing in towards the center, second block out to the outside, and third block into the center. And this is going to help your seams nest. So this is going to help you get those nice crisp intersections when you start sewing your shoe fly block together. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean when I'm talking about nesting seams. So when you do this with your own pieces, you'll be able to feel where the seams nest into each other or butt up next to each other. And if the seams are touching, you'll be sure to get a great intersection that gives you a crisp 90-degree angle. And now you'll just sew each of those rows together. And for the final piece shoe fly block, I ended up pressing my seams open on the back just because there's a lot of seams here and it can get really bulky. But that is a traditional shoe fly quilt block. I also want to show you the inverted shoe fly option. So in the pattern, the quilt patterns use both the traditional and the inverted, and the only difference is the fabric placement. So the white background and the fabric A are switched. So assembly is all exactly the same, pressing instructions are the same, everything is the same. The only difference is the fabric placement is basically reversed. And this gives you a really fun look. As you can see, there's a lot more of the background fabric, so it's a good way to show off your fabric if you have fabric you really like. So I'm going to piece this entire shoe fly block together, and this is what the final inverted shoe fly block looks like. Again, pressing open on the back to reduce that bulk from all of these seams in this block. I'm doing layout option 1C in the pattern, and that calls for 4 traditional shoe fly blocks and 5 inverted shoe fly blocks. And now it's time to piece them all together into rows. So for the first row, I'm going to go inverted block, traditional, inverted, and sew them all together. So this quilt is going to be a 3x3 quilt. So here, the most important thing when piecing these blocks together side by side is the points. So if you don't want to lose your points, I definitely recommend pinning because we pressed our seams open. So remember how when we were piecing our shoe fly block, we had those nested seams? Well, here, because we pressed the seams open, they're not going to nest. So instead, you can use pins to hold the fabric in place where you want it to be to make sure everything stays nice and clean. So I'm lining up the middle of that open seam on one block with the middle of the open seam on the other, and using pins to keep everything in place. And this is really just going to help keep the fabric where you want it to be and give you those crisp intersections. So here you can see my points are still there. Honestly, I don't really care about missing points some of the time, but this is a good tip and kind of like best practice just to keep things where you want them to be. Pins are not my favorite to use. I usually don't sew with pins, but in this example, I wanted to give it a nice clean look. So pins are your best friend if you're looking for precision. So for that third block on this row, just use pins to keep everything in place. And then this is what the first row will look like. So this is what the piece row 1 will look like. It's an inverted block, regular block, and inverted block, and you'll see it's just those 3 blocks sewn together. Now we're going to assemble the second row. So for this one, it's going to be the traditional shoe fly blocks on either side and then the inverted one in the middle, and we'll piece it exactly the same as the first row. Here's what this one will look like after it's pieced, and you'll see all those points are lined up because I pinned. And then the third row is assembled exactly the same way as the first row, the inverted blocks on either side and the traditional one in the center. And here's what it looks like pieced. So to piece the entire quilt top together, we're going to sew the first and second rows together, and just make sure you have that kind of checkered pattern between the inverted shoe fly blocks and the traditional ones. And again, I'm going to pin on each of these intersections just to make sure those points don't get lost and everything lines up correctly. So we'll sew these two rows together, and this is what it looks like after it's pieced. And for these intersections, you can press in whatever direction you choose. I'm going to press open because, again, it gets a little bulky with all of those seams. And then you'll sew the third row onto the bottom exactly the same way. And here's the finished quilt top. This version of the quilt ends up being a 36-inch square. There's a bunch of different layout options and sizes included in the paid pattern. Here's an example of one more that's exactly the same layout. It just includes sashing and borders, so it ends up being a 44-inch square, just a little bit bigger. And for this one, I used solid fabric instead of pattern fabric, just to show another option. You can download the free Shoe Fly quilt block pattern in the description below, and there's a link to the paid version of the pattern there as well. I'll see you next time.